College football on a Friday night equals Friday Night Lights. What prospect that you need to know when Kansas, Illinois, and Indiana take the field? We'll tell you next on the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You can find and follow me on Twitter at DP_NFL. I am a national scout over with the Draft Network, as well as the host of the Locked On Clemson Football Podcast. Guys, thank y'all for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Happy Friday to you. All right, thank y'all for being the family, but especially being our everydayers. And of course, I got to kick it over to my guy, my partner in crime, Mr. LSU, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on Twitter at The Talent Code. Keith, talk to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family, on this Friday morning? This is Keith Sanchez, senior draft analyst with the Draft Network, man, the 2019 national champ with those LSU Tigers. But you know why I'm here, right? Myself, Damian Parsons, is here to bring you that championship level content surrounding the NFL draft 24/7, 365, man. And we had, kickoff to NFL, right? Thursday night kickoff, man, with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Detroit Lions. But we want to jump into college football, right? Friday, we're going to preview the game for tonight, man. So we have a couple games on tap. We have Kansas versus Illinois, and we have Indiana playing Indiana State. So a little in-state rivalry. And like we said, man, we're going to talk about a couple prospects. Before we kick that off, DP, why don't you kick in with our title sponsor?
Today's episode of Locked On NFL Draft is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the promo code, all lowercase, LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Keith, Kansas versus Illinois, and looking at this matchup myself, Keith, there were numerous prospects in this game. And I feel like these are two teams that I think Illinois we kind of know more so about because of their defensive line and how their defense took center stage in college football last year is one of the best in the nation. They had multiple guys drafted last year. Matter of fact, their star corner went top 7 in the NFL draft. So we already know that they have defenders, but I felt like, just kind of looking at the prospects they have, they got two wide receivers that aren't talked about, Keith, and that's Pat Bryant and Casey Washington. And when you look at, just the game, last week they played Toledo and they beat them by not Toledo. I'm sorry. No, it was Toledo. They beat Toledo by 2 points, which is kind of shocking actually, because you would think that they would kind of hold Toledo down, but they beat Toledo by 2 points. But Pat Bryant, Casey Washington, two guys that combined it for over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, and like 11 receptions off of, I believe it was, or 10 receptions off of 11 targets, right? And just two guys that really can work on the outside. And then they also have the slot in Isaiah Williams. I want to say Washington, Isaiah Williams, twitched up. He was the leading target getter with 8 targets last week. He had 5 receptions for 51 yards. So I think these 3 wide receivers just in general just deserve a little bit more eyes on them. I think, especially with Pat Bryant, 6'3", 195, a guy that can play both in outside and in the slot, but he is predominantly lined up out wide, just at least so far this year. And of course, same thing with Casey Washington. Both of these got NFL-ready type of bodies. Casey Washington, 6'2", 200, that predominantly plays. He played almost every snap on the outside. So when I look at this offense, especially Keith, without, Chase Brown's in the league now. So like their run game did not look great without Chase Brown. So they're going to probably have to lean more so on the passing game and the legs of their quarterback. And when they pass the ball, those are the 3 targets that everybody should be watching. I think in this game, if the defense doesn't hold, doesn't be able to hold Kansas, and that kind of, I don't want to call it gimmicky offense, but Kansas offense is kind of wild. They do some really creative things.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? 2 quarterbacks pitch, kind of pitch pass. All that. They know how to stress you out. So if this defense gives up points, they're going to have to throw the ball. And those 3 wide receivers, Pat Bryant, Casey Washington, and Isaiah Williams, will be the three guys that we need to keep our eyes on for this Fighting Illinois offense.
Yeah, DP, man, he called the Kansas offense gimmicky, man. I like it. I think they do some different things. Listen,
They're
if Kansas
creative.
was
That's the
going,
best way I can put it. They're
yeah,
creative.
that's the politically correct answer, right? Is to say that it's creative. Listen, if they was going to win some games, right, they were not going to line up in power and run right at people and move people out the way, right? They simply didn't have the dudes, just on the offensive side of the football to be able to do that. So when I watched their offense, because I watched it, why, and that's why I'm going to defend is quarterback Jalon Daniels, right, for Kansas, man, a dual threat guy. When I watched their offense, he was the perfect fit. Like everything just meshed together. He's the perfect skill set for what Kansas is trying to do, and he won them a lot of games last year, right? I would probably say maybe top 5 surprise teams in college football, right? Like them, nobody expected TCU to make it to the national championship, things like that, right? So I will put, I like what Kansas can do, and I think that's what's going to make this for a Friday night, and it's Kansas and Illinois, right? If this was basketball, people would be really excited about it, right? If this is college basketball, but for a football game, DP, I think this game is actually going to be talented. I'm expecting some fireworks because both of these offenses are potent enough to really put up points. And like I said, I'm circling quarterback Jalon Daniels because I want to see if he can make some plays. If he could get out there, put up 30, 40 points, if he can rush for 60, 70 yards, throw for another 250 plus, man, he can have a hell of a game on Friday night. And then another quarterback to throw. He'd just be another name to throw into that conversation.
No, and I think Keith is really big that you bring him up because, for him, this will be his first game of the season. It's week 2, but he is held out last week. They played Missouri State. They played Jason Bean. They played Jason Bean and let him go ahead and rest up because they know that Illinois and they want to go ahead and have him fully healthy. And he is expected to be back in the lineup today. And Jason Bean looked good against Missouri State, but like you said, Jalon Daniels, man, it was at one point last year. People even was kind of whispering Heisman talk about Jalon Daniels.
Yeah, they had
how well he was playing.
I want to say it was up until that TCU game, right? Because I think they played TCU in the middle of the season. So you're talking about 6-7 weeks in, so that way you can start building more momentums and building some momentum and things like that. So definitely DP. I think Jalon Daniels. I don't know if he regarnered a Heisman. It's just so many quarterbacks, but that skill set, DP, we've seen it drafted, right? You're talking about Skylar Thompson, in the 5th round that went to Miami, right? We've seen other quarterbacks that can, just mobile guys, Kellen Mond, and I'm not naming high level NFL quarterbacks. What I'm saying is this is a player that NFL franchises they're gonna go after, right? Bring him in, he be somebody's second or third string quarterback as slated now, and then we just see what kind of happens. So he's definitely an NFL draft prospect.
He's got some big targets too, Keith. He's got some big wide receivers out there. Quentin Skinner, 6'5", 195. Then you have the other receiver on the team. I'm trying to pull his name back up because I blinked just now. With him, he's like 6'3", I think, 6'3".
And that's perfect.
Lawrence Arnold. Yeah, 6'3", 200. But Keith, I'm gonna tell you the guy on that offense that I'm really keeping my eyes on. Like you talked about with Daniels, it's the running back, Keith. Devin Neal, and I think that was a guy that was on our radar for just to kind of talk about this running back class. And this young man last week, 13 carries, 94 yards, over 7 yards per carry, and the touchdown. And he had over almost 5 yards, almost 4.5, a little over 4, close to 4.5 yards per attempt after contact. So he's tough, he's physical, low center of gravity. And this is a guy that I think against this defensive front, man, I think if he goes out there and puts up numbers against Jer'Zhan Newton and all those guys, I think that'll be big because we didn't even get a chance to really talk about them. Well, we already know about them. Jer'Zhan Newton, Keith, I think it's Keith Randall, the junior, the other big D tackle, Keith. And like I said, and those 2 wide receivers. But on the defense side of the ball, if Devin Neal can go out there and ball, have 100 plus 2 touchdowns, that's going to just kind of continue to help propel him in this kind of stacked running back class for 2024, not 2023, but 2024 class.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you mentioned Jer'Zhan Newton for Illinois, DP. He has a chance to be D tackle one. Like that's what the hype is around him. So definitely everybody make sure y'all check him out, right? If your team needs some run defense, you're trying to stop the run, big run plugger, the guy can potentially come from Illinois. So make sure y'all check this game out. There are a good bit of prospects when you're talking about third, fourth, fifth round players that can show up in this game. But DP, let's keep this thing going, man. It's a doubleheader, right? So that means we have two games. And like I said, we have an in-state rivalry with Indiana versus Indiana State. Let's tap in. Let's talk about who the draft prospects are to watch out for in this game.
Guys, you don't have to choose between better hair growth and your actual health because Nutrafol provides a whole body health approach for men that promotes healthier hair. There's no drugs, no compromises, just better hair. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement, clinically shown to improve your hair growth, the visible thickness of it, and your visible scalp coverage. Their supplements use a physician formulated, natural, and science backed ingredients. Their drug free, patented technology provides consistent, reliable results without compromising your sexual health. So take the first step to visibly thicker hair and healthier hair for a limited time. Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men and enter the promo code Locked On NFL. That is Nutrafol.com/men. Enter the promo code Locked On NFL. The Indiana Hoosiers, Keith, typically known as a basketball school, but they have NFL draft prospects, Keith. And one guy I was watching some tape on because last week they played Ohio State and everything like that. Now, because I was trying to figure out what was going on with the Ohio State passing offense and everything. So I was watching them against that defense. And there was two guys, it was a couple guys that really popped, but Aaron Casey, their linebacker. Like this guy was like, you talking about a potential 3-down player at the next level, 6'2", 235. He moved well when he was tasked to drop back in coverage. But he when he blitzed, he had like a pressure, on the quarterback and everything like that. He had 6 run stops, over 10 tackles. He was all over the field, Keith. Now, of course, being a linebacker, like I want to see him just kind of handle, like with those guards coming up to the second level. I saw him get picked off a couple times, and they kind of put him on skates, been able to push him backwards and everything. Well, they're 300 pounders, 300 plus pounders, and he's 235. That's what, that's just kind of comes with the territory. But I just want to see him be quicker in terms of beating those, whether it's attacking them before they get to him, right? Shock and shed and stop their momentum, or if you got to kind of finesse it, work your way around them, stuff like without out leveraging yourself and exiting your gap responsibilities in the run game. But he was all over the field, man. Like he played a lot, and like I said, kind of overhang, drop him off in the coverage. He looked fluid. He looked athletic. I was like, okay, there's something there with Mr. Casey, and I like what I saw from him.
Yeah, DP, just real quick about the linebacker position because I liked how you talk about it, right? Like you have to pick one, right? Like, but you can't stand still, and that's the thing. And for everybody who watched the LSU Florida State game, obviously the Harold Perkins situation was heavily criticized, right? But you have to do something, meaning that you have to attack and almost flow over the play, or you have to be backside on the play, right? But you can't just stand in one spot. And I just posted this on Twitter, DP. It was the linebacker from South Carolina. I'm blanking on his name right now because I was watching Drake May, right? Like that's what happened. I was watching Drake May and is winding down to the end of the game, and then this guy comes out of nowhere, right, and blows the running back up, and I'm like, this is how you play linebacker, man. The linebacker for South Carolina is Debo Williams. He pulled his trigger. He pulled his trigger, played downhill, explosive tackle, right, shot out of his hips. Everything about it. So I'm definitely looking forward to watching him also. DP. Are there any other draft prospects from Indiana that potentially that you want to check out?
Man, yes, they have a defensive end, Andre Carter, big guy, strong. He looks the part, and everything on the defensive line. And the main thing for me when I watched him, he's 6'5", 270, and you could tell he looks it. He looks like a 4'3", hand in the dirt defensive end. He does a good job, in the run game, kind of splitting double teams with the tight end and tackle, kind of, prying his way through, flashing his colors, forcing the running back to bounce it further outside, allowing guys like, Casey from linebacker to flow over the top and make a play in space. But I want to see him, as a pass rusher, he has a tendency to pop straight up, right? You know what I mean? Just like a jack in the box. As soon as the ball snap, he'll stand straight up out of his stance. And you want to see him just kind of lower that pad level drive, that drive phase as a pass rusher. Drive phase, get 2 steps into your rush, get your hands on a guy, dislodge and disengage from him, and displace him from the play, and then get into the backfield, right? He showed there was one play where they had the guard wrap off a play action where the guard comes backside, sells the run action, everything like that. He did a great job before the guard can really get up to him. He gets both hands on him, stacks him, disengages, and then gets into the face of the quarterback. And I think he forced an incompletion on that play and everything, because I don't think that I forget McCord. I don't think he's that mobile. At least he didn't look like it to me. He looks more like a pocket passer. So he was able to do those type of things. Now I just need to just do that against these tackles. When you go up against these athletic tackles with long arms and stuff that can match yours, I just need to see more of a pass rush rep from him and repertoire. But I saw a young man that could really play, Keith, and has some ability, right? And like I said, in the run game, I think that's where he's going to make his money. He had 3 run stops. He got into the backfield and was able to kind of disrupt timing and everything else. But just that pass rush repertoire, I need to see more from it, because I think that he does have some solid upside, Keith. But also, I want to. Oh, go ahead.
No, I have one other name offensively for Indiana, and that is EJ Williams, the wide receiver, the transfer from DP from Clemson, man. He's another one of those big-bodied wide receivers that we're talking about. Yeah, 6'3", 6'4", 200 pounds, right? You would love to see, can he make some plays against Indiana State? Because at the end of the day, DP, this is supposed to be a stat game, right? And Indiana did a good job because they played Ohio State, right? They did a good job of making things complicated, right? Ohio State didn't look like Ohio State. We expected them to come out and, like I said, with their wide receivers to put up 40, 50 points. So I want to see Indiana, right? I want to see Indiana with a repeat performance. And, these players, like we talked about, right? You want to see them be dominant. Like, these are the games where if you're a wide receiver, you should go for 100+ yards, right? Quarterback, this is your 250 to 300-yard game. DN, you know what I'm saying? You should be dominant in that capacity. So you're putting together your resume. And as we go through the season, all right, cool, we're on a week 2. I need to put another notch on my resume of things that I could do, and I could be dominant against lesser competition.
100%, 100%. And the other guy I wanted to talk about was cornerback Nicolas Toomer. He actually transferred from Stanford. He played 3 years at Stanford, essentially 2, because he didn't really play that 2019 season. I think he was redshirted that year. But, in the game last week against Emeka Egbuka, Marvin Harrison Jr., Carnell Tate, Julian Fleming, the list goes on to the receivers that they have at Ohio State. He was targeted last week 5 times. He allowed 3 receptions for only 19 yards. So he played a really strong game against a very talented wide receiver core for the Ohio State Buckeyes. This is another game for him to go out. You should pitch a shutout against Indiana State. Showcase, and he has the typical size. He's 6'2", he's 190, right? And he looked fluid enough. I saw good speed working down, working in the deep portions of the field, carrying vertical routes and everything. So again, just all about stacking games, right? Last week when scouts go and look at, all right, what happened with Marvin Harrison and all of them, and they see you in coverage, right? And you out here doing your thing. That's a resume game. So go out here. It's Indiana State, so it might not be a resume game, but it's just an opportunity for you to stack more good tape for when scouts come calling this coming January, because I think he's a senior, so he may be on the Senior Bowl watch list and everything like that. So keep your eyes on number 15 in that Indiana Hoosier secondary, Nicolas Toomer.
Yeah, I agree 100%. DP, let's keep this thing going. Let's keep it flowing, man. And we get into one of our favorite segments, right? And that is game prediction, where we get to predict the game, let the people know what we're thinking will happen. Like I said, this Kansas Illinois matchup will be a lot more exciting. If you want to know where we stand with that, stay tuned.
Today's episode of Locked On NFL Draft is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They are the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, okay? And it's just you against the numbers. The quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes Prize Picks the number one daily fantasy sports app. This week on Prize Picks, I'm selecting Saquon Barkley to have more than 60 yards and Patrick Mahomes for more than 2 passing touchdowns. Prize Picks offers promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday each Tuesday. Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value. All right. So all you need to do is go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the promo code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit that matches up to $100. It's time for those game predictions, Keith. We only got the 2 games on tap, and that should we start with we can call it a cupcake, I guess. You know what I mean? Indiana State, the in-state rivalry. I think it's on Big Ten Network. Indiana State at Indiana. Keith, I'm going with those darn Hoosiers, man. And I'm looking here real quick because I'm trying to see what the over-under is, or the spread, I guess you could say. I'm expecting to be big numbers, and I think that if anything, we should probably go with those numbers because
I'm definitely going. I'm going Indiana on this one. Hopefully, and this is what we said, right? Because they gave Ohio State some problems to where Ohio State didn't perform at the standard that we thought. Now, this is where you kind of get to see if y'all are a dominant team, right? Like go out there and beat this team by 30, by 40, by 50, right? And then now we talked about in the first segment, right? Surprise teams. Could Indiana be one of those surprise teams that, people were not expecting to be that good, but they're actually more talented than what we slated for? And like we said, they have draft prospects. So you have some potential NFL talent, on this team. So I'm definitely going with Indiana for this prediction.
And crazy enough, Keith, you said 30, 40, 50. The spread is 33.5. So they should absolutely not just match the spread. You would like to see them kind of take the spread, go over the spread. You know what I mean? Not just cover, but take it over and everything like that. So next game, Illinois traveling to Kansas. And I think this is as you talked about with Jalon Daniels, Keith, I think when you look at the spread, I think that's indicative and is a good indicator of how the college football, how the voters and how Vegas feels about Jalon Daniels. Like Illinois is a 3-point underdog in this game. You know what I mean? Kansas is favored by 3 points solid, just a solid 3 points, Keith. Who are you taking, Illinois, or Kansas in this matchup?
I'm taking Illinois. I'm going with Illinois. We listed out the wide receiver prospects. They had the quarterback that transferred from Ole Miss, Luke Altmaier. So I'm going with them. I think they have the offensive firepower to match. But what's going to make the difference for me, DP, is on the defensive side of the football. Big boy Jer'Zhan Newton. I'm expecting him to kind of stimmy this running game just a little bit, right? Like kind of mess some things up, put them behind the chains, right? Some 2nd and 8s, 2nd and 9s, things like that. Put this Kansas offense behind the chains. So I'm going to go with Illinois because I think they're probably the most balanced team. I think Jalon Daniels has potentially the most upside, right, of both of the quarterbacks and both players on either offensive side of the football. But I think Illinois is the more balanced team with the defensive prospects they have.
No, and I don't blame you for it. I'm actually going with the home team. I think Jalon Daniels. I think Jalon Daniels in Kansas, and I call it creative. That creative offense. I think that they're going to find ways to create explosive plays, whether in the run or pass game. Devin Neal in the backfield. I think they're going to find ways to create mismatches, create the right angles for the offensive line, everything else. Kind of have Jer'Zhan Newton and Keith Randall kind of off schedule, off kilter a little bit, right? You know what I mean? Trying to diagnose run versus pass. You think it's run, is actually a flea flicker, so it's a pass. They got that kind of crazy double option with with 2 quarterbacks on the field at the same time. Like, it's just really creative. Real creative. I think the creativity, along with having their QB1 back in the lineup tonight, I think that's going to make the difference, Keith. So I'm going to go with the home team. I think they win by 3. I think they cover the spread.
Okay, look, we went on opposite ways. So, like we said, we cannot both be right, right? So, we will see what happens, man. Tap in with us Friday night. Like I said, man, tweet at us, talk to us, man. And that wraps up this show, right? That wraps up another show. Happy Friday to everyone, man. Jumping right into college football, right? We had Thursday night football last night. It feel good to have NFL back. We have high school. We have college football. We got all three, DP. We are rocking and rolling at this point, man. This is the best time of the year, right? We get to talk football 24/7, 365. Like I said, that wraps up this show. And man, tweet at us, right? You can find me at the Talent Code. You can find DP at DP_NFL. Once again, we want to shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us every single day.
No, for real. And like Keith, Keith said, man, like we into college football. What does college football mean? Saturday. What does Saturday mean for us? We will be live 10:30 a.m. Eastern time on YouTube live. Yet again, we're trying to do this every single Saturday where y'all can jump into the chat, holler at us, ask us questions. We'll bring your questions up on the screen. Like what we always tell you guys, talk to us because we talk back. That's the perfect opportunity to do so. Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts to get the latest episode as soon as it is available on YouTube. Not just subscribe, but remember FTA for the algorithm, comment, like, and then also hit the bell notification so you're notified anytime we drop content on the channel. Okay, like I said, that's tomorrow. That's tomorrow. Saturday we're gonna be live, man. So Keith already told you the Twitter handles. So listen, enjoy y'all Friday. Have fun watching these games tonight. Be safe and have a great weekend. You know what I'm saying? And what you can do is come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.